1.2 million pills seized in Texas. ICE and the FBI just exposed a cartel logistics hub, but the real operators weren't on the floor.
Tonight, at this moment, ICE and the FBI are ripping open a cartel logistics hub in Texas, an operation so dense, so industrial, that the first count on scene doesn't come back as bags or bricks. It comes back as 1.2 million pills and 1,250 kilograms of narcotics, seized in one coordinated strike that investigators say was designed to cut a major artery in the supply chain, not just catch another crew. Right now, tactical units are stacking on steel doors. K9s are sweeping loading bays. Forensic chemists are running field kits under harsh white lights. Evidence teams are photographing every crate, every press, every label. Because this wasn't a lesser crime. This was a manufacturing and distribution ecosystem built to survive raids, built to outpace overdoses, built to keep moving even when bodies pile up. And it starts at a warehouse that doesn't look like a warehouse until you know what to listen for. 1:58 a.m. South Texas. The air is heavy, damp, and warm enough that sweat forms under body armor before the first door even opens. Sodium vapor lights flicker over an access road lined with mesquite and chain-link fence. The wind smells like dust, diesel, and the faint chemical bite of solvents that don't belong in an empty industrial park. You hear the engines first, then the radios, then the silence between commands. At 1 hour 58 minutes and 33 seconds, the convoy kills its headlights. At 1 hour 59 minutes and 4 seconds, agents step out, boots crunching gravel in a slow, controlled rhythm. FBI jackets, ICE HSI identifiers, DHS support, a CBP air unit overhead, circling wide, invisible in the cloud cover. At 1 hour 59 minutes and 41 seconds, a supervisor raises a hand, 2 fingers, then a fist. Hold. Wait. Listen. The building sits ahead like a blank face, corrugated metal, no signage, a roll-up bay door sealed shut, a side entrance with a cheap padlock meant to look ordinary. But ordinary buildings don't have thermal signatures at this hour. Ordinary buildings don't hum. And this one hums. A generator somewhere inside, pushing power through a place that's supposed to be dead. At 2 a.m., the command comes over to radio, clipped and final. Green light. Breach. The first strike is surgical. Bolt cutters snap the outer lock with a metallic pop. A breacher wedges the door. The ram hits once. Then again. The frame gives way with a groan that echoes down the empty road. Flash bangs shatter the darkness. White light. Violent sound. A shockwave that turns the air into pressure. Agents flood inside. Fast. Disciplined. Clear. Left secure. Move. Hands. Hands. The first room isn't a stash. It's a workflow. Industrial tables. Heat sealers. Pill press parts laid out like tools in a mechanic's shop. Buckets of binding agents. Powder residue on the floor, tracked in footprints that cross the concrete in practiced routes, station to station, step by step. And in the corner, stacked against the wall like inventory, are plastic tubs filled with pills. Not in baggies, not in handfuls, in volume, in scale. AK-9 unit hits the first tub and sits, trained, rigid, certain. An agent peels back a lid, and the pills are stamped with counterfeit markings, clean shapes meant to mimic legitimate pharmaceuticals. Their color is almost cheerful under the harsh lights. But no one smiles, because the first count on scene is already impossible. Hundreds of thousands, then more, and more. At 2:11 a.m., Special Agent Tomas Rivas, ICHSI, Financial Smuggling and Transnational Logistics, walks into the room and doesn't speak for a full 10 seconds. His eyes track the stations, the equipment, the pallets. He isn't looking at drugs. He's looking at throughput, capacity. He turns to a supervisor and says it quietly. This isn't a drop. This is a hub. At 2:15 a.m., FBI Special Agent Mara Ellison, assigned to a joint cell for public corruption and organized crime finance, steps into a second room and stops cold. Because the walls are wrong. Too thick. Too newly painted. A different sound when she taps them. Dense, packed, like they were built to hold weight. An agent runs a handheld stud finder across the surface. The pattern is abnormal. Reinforcement where none should be. Ellison signals. A pry bar slides into a seam. Drywall cracks. And the wall opens. Not a void. A chamber. Packed from floor to ceiling with vacuum-sealed bundles. Wrapped tight, stacked tight. Arranged like someone measured every inch. Cash. Not a few thousand, not even a few 100,000. A hidden mass, a silent monument to profit. An evidence tech whispers without meaning to, "My God." And Ellison answers with a line that defines the case. This wasn't desperation. This was design. What investigators find in the next 30 minutes would trigger a cascade, one that stretches beyond this building, beyond this county, beyond any single arrest. If you want to see how deep this goes, hit like right now. Because Act 2 doesn't begin with a confession. It begins with evidence that doesn't just point to criminals. It points to infrastructure. By 2:24 a.m., teams push deeper. A loading bay opens to a third area, part storage, part shipping. Pallets wrapped in black plastic. Cardboard boxes labeled as auto parts and ceramic tiles. Shrink wrap layered thick enough to resist casual inspection. Agents cut open the first pallet. Inside, bricks of narcotics, wrapped in carbon paper and grease. Counter-surveillance, packaging designed to reduce scent and confuse scanners. A field test pops color. Then another. Cocaine, methamphetamine, fentanyl powder in sealed pouches. The numbers start stacking in real time. 1,250 kilograms across multiple drug types, documented and weighed as the operation continues. And the pills keep coming. Evidence teams set up tables to count, weigh, and catalog. The pile becomes a wall. The wall becomes a mountain. 1.2 million pills, a number so large it stops feeling like math and starts feeling like a threat. At 2:41 a.m., the next layer arrives. Digital evidence. A server rack hidden behind a false panel in the office area. Encrypted laptops. Multiple phones sealed in Faraday bags. Anti-tracking, anti-wipe. A cyber agent connects a write blocker and begins imaging drives on site, generating hash values like fingerprints so every byte can be defended in court. A sticky note on the underside of a desk looks harmless at first, just a string of letters and numbers. But to the analyst, it's a key, a wallet address, a passphrase fragment, an access token. The cartel doesn't just ship product, it ships instructions. At 3:05 a.m., a forensic chemist sets up a portable testing station. Gloves, mask, small vials, reagents. They scrape residue from the pill press. Run it. The results aren't narrated like a lab report. They're spoken like a warning. High potency. Adulterants present. Inconsistent dosing. Translation: every pill is a coin flip with a human life. But investigators weren't done. At 3:22 a.m., a second team executes a simultaneous warrant at a nearby freight brokerage office. Clean desks, framed motivational posters, a reception area that smells like air freshener and lies. In the back, hidden behind file cabinets, they find ledgers. Not handwritten confessions. Shipping manifests. Route schedules. Driver lists with coded notes. Safe, burn, replace. A wall map with pins that trace highways like veins. I-35, I-10, I-20, arteries that carry commerce by day and poison by night. At 3:51 a.m., financial evidence begins to crystallize. Ellison's team pulls documents from a locked cabinet, invoices for packaging supplies, warehouse maintenance, equipment repair, all paid to shell companies, with mailing addresses that lead to empty suites. The money doesn't sit, it moves. Structured transfers, split beneath reporting thresholds. Wire chains that bounce between accounts like a shell game. And the deeper analysts go, the clearer the purpose becomes. This hub isn't just a place to store drugs. It's a place to convert product into profit, then profit into immunity. Because power doesn't always need violence. Sometimes it only needs accountants, burner phones, and the right people looking the other way. Comment, exposed, if you're ready to see who sold us out. Type fury if you want to see who betrayed the badge. Because the betrayal doesn't arrive as a headline. It arrives as a small decision inside a system. At day 2, 9:14 p.m., investigators interview a warehouse worker picked up during the raid. Low level, scared, sweating through a county-issued shirt. They give him a code name, Sable. Sable isn't a cartel boss. He's a laborer who thought he was stacking merchandise for cash. Ellison sits across from him, voice controlled. Who paid you? Sable's eyes dart to the corner, like someone might be listening. He answers in fragments. Not them. Not the guys on site. It was a man in a suit. He came with someone with a badge. A badge. Rivas leans forward. What kind of badge? Sable swallows. Like county. Maybe. He said we wouldn't get stopped. He said, we're covered. That's the human layer. And it hits harder than the kilos. Because now the case isn't only cartel logistics, it's institutional compromise. At day 3, analysts pull phone dumps from seized devices. A pattern emerges: repeated numbers that never stay long, rotating SIMs, encrypted chat handles. But one contact repeats more than the rest, saved under a neutral name: logistics. When they correlate cell site data, that contact's phone spends time near the warehouse and near a public building miles away. A place that shouldn't share GPS space with narcotics manufacturing. That's the systemic layer coming into focus: cartel operations woven into the normal geography of government and business, hiding in plain sight. Then everything shattered open. Because at day 5, 6:02 a.m., an internal memo leaks into the task force, an alert from a local agency that should never have known about the raid timing. Someone tipped the network. Not enough to stop the operation, but enough that a secondary crew vanished hours before the breach, taking with them a set of keys and a ledger that isn't found on site. The hub was hit, but the spine is still running. If you're still watching, understand what this means. The raid wasn't the end. It was the opening cut. Act 3 begins when the task force decides to sever the entire chain in one synchronized strike before anyone can rebuild. At 2 a.m., week 3, the command center activates. A joint operational name goes on the board: Operation Dust Line. FBI, ICE HSI, DEA support for narcotics intelligence, ATF for weapons and trafficking intersections, CBP intelligence for cross-border link analysis, Marshall stage for high-risk apprehensions, multiple teams, multiple targets, one narrow window. At 2:17 a.m., a SWAT team hits a ranch property used as a secondary storage site. The gate is breached. Vehicles roll in. A barn door comes down. Inside, weapons racks, ammunition cases, suppressors, and body armor still in plastic. Not a personal cache. Security for an enterprise. At 2:23 a.m., another team hits a medical supply warehouse. The signage is real. The business license is real. But the back room isn't. Hidden behind stacked boxes of legitimate goods is another press setup. Smaller, faster, designed to restart production if the main hub falls. Redundancy. Resilience. A system built to survive consequences. At 2:31 a.m., an interdiction unit stops a commercial van on a highway shoulder under floodlights. The driver's hands shake on the wheel. AK. 9 circles once and sits. Agents open the cargo area. Inside, sealed totes of pills, fresh batches already moving. The machine doesn't mourn. It just reroutes. At 2:44 a.m., the most dangerous location goes live, an apartment complex where the task force believes a coordinator is staying. They breach. The hallway fills with shouted commands. A suspect runs. A door slams. A gun appears for half a second, just long enough. A shot cracks. Agent Luis Navarro, FBI Tactical, takes a round in the thigh. He goes down hard, teeth clenched, hands still trying to crawl toward cover. A medic drags him back, clamps a tourniquet, checks pulse. Navarro gasps, voice tight with pain. Don't let them move the phones. Because phones aren't just devices. They're keys to the network. At 3:08 a.m., arrests are confirmed across multiple sites. Not a headline number. A coordinated outcome. Coordinators, transporters, money handlers. By sunrise, the seizure totals are overwhelming in their physical reality. Pallets of narcotics, tables of pills, stacks of cash, weapons laid out in rows that look like war inventory. In court later, the story changes tone. No more night air. No more breach charges. Now it's fluorescent light and quiet breathing and the slow grind of accountability. A victim's father, Robert Calder, stands at a microphone and holds a photograph of his daughter. She's 19 in the picture. Bright smile. Soft eyes. She died after taking a counterfeit pill at a party. One pill, one night, one call that never came in time. He says it plainly, voice shaking but controlled. They sold death stamped to look like medicine. The courtroom stays silent because no one can argue with that sentence. Sentencing arguments talk about kilograms and pill counts. But the family talk about chairs that stay empty. Birthdays that don't happen. Text messages that never get answered. And investigators Rivas, Ellison, Navarro carry their own weight. Navarro survives, but he walks with pain for months. Rivas sleeps in fragments. Ellison stares at transaction charts until the lines blur because she knows the truth. Dismantling one hub doesn't end a system built to regenerate. This wasn't a lesser crime. This was a greater systemic threat. The network didn't just traffic drugs. It engineered logistics, corrupted pathways, and attempted to purchase invisibility. Power doesn't always need violence. Sometimes it only needs volume, speed, and one compromised voice inside the right office. This story is a fictional dramatization, but the warning is real. When drug networks operate like corporations, they don't fear raids the way small crews do. They budget for losses. They build backups. They recruit the weak points in institutions that were never designed to fight an enemy this adaptive. So the actionable takeaway is simple and brutal. Demand transparency from agencies tasked with oversight. Protect whistleblowers. Fund forensic capacity. Track money with the same urgency you track narcotics. And never accept it's just one warehouse when the evidence shows an ecosystem. Hit subscribe so you see what happens next. Share this so people understand how deep the trail can go. Comment vigilance below. Tap like so more people see this story. Because the question isn't whether another hub is operating tonight. The question is, will we catch it before it's too late?